Namaste everyone, this is Stephen from YogaWorks. Welcome to your practice. Today's class is called Carve Out Some Space, and I find that whenever I'm able to carve out some space in a busy schedule or in my mental space, it has huge returns. If I manage to drop an activity that no longer feels valuable or uplifting to me, then I automatically have more space to do what really matters to me at the moment. And I find it keeps changing as the days go by. This is a dynamic process. And for our body and our joints, it's actually the same thing. So if you want more space in the hips or in the shoulders or in the spine, what we need to do is carve out some space. And the way to do that, especially for a ball and socket joint like the hips and for the shoulders as well, we'll be focusing more on the hips today, is to use rotations. So you can imagine the thigh bone as the strong bone with sort of a round surface at the top. It's not exactly anatomically correct, but it's good to imagine. And then it fits into the socket like this, and then the hip bone, the thigh bone, has quite a lot of movement potential inside that hip socket. And when we rotate internally and externally, then we're going to be actually literally carving out more space inside the hip joint. There's two main rotations. I'll just show you while I'm seated here. So if you look at the rotation of the thigh bone, if I'm rotating it out, this is external rotation. The effect is that my foot is turning out, but what I'm really actually looking at is the thigh bone in the hip socket, and then rotating in. You'll see there's a lot less space here, a lot less movement potential. You'll probably find the same. And often the internal rotation is a bit of a weak or underdeveloped point for a lot of us. So we'll be spending a little bit of time there as well as in the external rotation. So sitting on your heels like this, on your knees, just place one foot out to the side. I like to widen the stance a little bit. We could call this our combat stance. And then you've got this leg available. You can place your hand on the knee and then just rotate the leg in and out a couple of times. Of course, the knee is moving, the foot is moving, that's all fine. But what we're really interested in is the thigh bone rotating externally, that's when you want to go out, and internally, that's when you go in. Right now, this is our first movement, so we don't want to go really strongly at all. We're not looking for any strong sensations. We're introducing the actors of the play, which is our internal and external rotation in the thigh bones here. And if it feels good, you can stay in external rotation, just push out for a little moment, feel what that's like. And then stay in internal rotation just for a little moment. You can push a little bit back with your knee against your hand. And that's activating all kinds of muscles. You might already feel the space that we're starting to work with, where we're carving out a little bit more space. So come back to center and place the left foot out this time. You can widen the knees a bit just so you have space. And then place left hand on left knee and rotate that leg in. I can already feel this hip is more flexible in my case. So this process is a little bit easier of rotating in and out. I just feel there's already more space available for me to work with. So that's a good thing to know, that right hip might need a little bit more attention, or might have to back off a little bit if there's some restrictions. Or I might have to do an extra rep or minute when I'm working that right leg, so we can slowly balance things off a little bit more over time. Maybe stay in external rotation for a little bit. Gently press the hand against the inside of the knee, and with the knee I'm resisting back into the hand. And then go internal rotation. With the hand I'm pressing down, with the knee I'm pressing up. Forgot to mention, this class has two distinct parts. In the first half, which we're doing now, is a bit more mobility work. And then we'll take some of that work, the space we've carved out, into some more traditional yoga poses in the second half. Nice. Now come into a squat, and then just see how your squat is feeling. after that little warm up, and then just move side to side. So that's again, your thigh bones will need to rotate inside the hips to make that possible. And just go really gently, just leaning a bit of weight onto the right foot, leaning onto the left foot, and feeling the movement of the thigh bones and the hip sockets. And then just come to sit down, keep your legs or your feet more or less where they were for your squat. You can have your hands behind you, but keep the spine a little bit long, and then just windscreen wipe from side to side. I do this in a lot of my classes. I find it's one of the best hip rotation warm-ups. And as you do this a couple more times, just notice the leg that's out to the side is an external rotation. The leg that's into the middle is an internal rotation. So you're alternating between these two. And the effect is, of course, that the thigh bone is rotating and inviting all those tissues to allow some space for this movement. Nice. Now, bring your knees a little bit more forward, and we can do this similar movement in another way, just by lifting up onto the knees, swinging the legs to the other side, and coming back down. So do that a few times, lifting up, swing the lower legs to the other side, and lower down. If that feels not great in your body, then just revert to the opposite, the previous pose. Otherwise, do that a few more times. This is great because there's a bit more weight and strength requirement, which just has a different input into the system. Last one. Nice. And then bring your right leg straight in front of you. You might need to lean back a little, but that's fine. But bring the thigh parallel to the short edge of the mat, the shin parallel to the long edge of the mat, and your foot a little bit flexed. Now stay here and start to turn a little bit towards that right leg, and you'll feel, ooh, there's not much space here. There might be some like a pinching sensation at the top of the hip here. So now we're in internal rotation in this leg, which is one of the weak points I've mentioned to you in the beginning that we often need to work on a little bit. And it's often the case that the internal rotation, when you improve it, it also benefits the opposite one, the external rotation. You could stay here, or there's one more option if you place your other ankle on top of that right knee, to have a little bit more sort of pinning down. And what you can do with that resistance is with the right knee, imagine I'm lifting up. I'm wanting to push that left foot up into the air, but it's not allowing me to go anywhere. And this activates those internal rotators that we are also stretching at the moment. So stay here just for a moment, put that system under a bit of tension. Slow the breath down. Every time you exhale, can you relax as best as you can? And then release that. Let's take it to the other side. So we'll windscreen wipe to the right. Set up that left thigh parallel to short edge of the mat. Left shin parallel to the long edge of the mat. Lengthen the spine a bit. If you don't have much space, if this feels really pinchy or tight, then just lean a bit back, and it's going to allow you to get into that shape. You can stay here, or you can place the right ankle on top of the outer left knee, and stay for a moment. So for me, this is my good side, so to speak. I feel this is a bit more accessible than on the right, but it's still a bit of work. I feel quite a bit in the left outer hip, and then especially if you're starting to push up with the left knee into the right foot. Now we're activating the muscles, those tissues that rotate the hip here. Take a few more slower breaths, especially longer exhales. And then slowly release Another way to rotate the hips is just to, well, rotate the hips. So we'll do a articular rotation, which is called, and come into hands and knees for that. Now first, come into neutral spine, so we don't want to drop the belly, we don't want to round excessively, so more, as best close to neutral as you can. Then lift the right knee, but not much, just off the mat, and then watch that your hips don't move as you lift the right knee up and behind you. We don't want to come into a back bend, so keep the belly a little bit engaged here. And open the right knee to the side, start to move it out and open towards the right elbow. Don't lift the right hip too much here. And then circle back to where we start from. Let's do one more circle that way. Lift up without using the spine. Open to the side. Start to lift the leg and move it forward. Move quite slowly here so you feel what's happening. And then set the knee down just for a moment. Nice. Good. Same hip, different direction of the circle. So lift the right knee a little bit. Squeeze right knee to your right elbow, but without rounding your spine. Of course, if I round the spine, I've got a lot more space. But if I keep the hips and spine steady, then there's only so far I can go. Open and circle to the back, really slow, really slow, really slow. So we're carving out space around the outer edges of that circle with the hip, just imagine that. One more circle, right knee towards the right elbow, but don't touch. If you do it correctly, you shouldn't be able to touch. Open to the side, lift, lift, lift the right heel. Keep the spine strong, the core strong, and back to center. Set it down. So it looks like we're not doing much, but internally a lot is happening, and you probably feel quite some engagement of a lot of muscles that you don't often use in that kind of way. I'll turn around so you can see the second side better. So I'll work with the left hip, hover the left knee. So we don't want to hike the left hip up, just hover a little bit. Lift the left foot up and back, so we're extending the left hip. And start to externally rotate and abduct. We're taking the left knee away from the midline. Move left knee towards left elbow. And then slowly return back. You feel some parts of the circle are really easy and accessible, and some parts are a little bit hairy, and you don't spend a lot of time there. So second circle, go nice and slow. Don't forget your breath. And set it down just to reset for a moment. Hover the left knee. Squeeze it forward without rounding your spine. Abduct, we're going out to the side. Internally rotate and extend the hip to finish. Come back and do one more round this way. So we're flexing the hip, opening to the side, internally rotating and lifting behind, and set it down. Nice. Now come to lie on your right side. With your right knee up and the left leg straight. You can post yourself up on your elbow. And then we're going to be working with this bottom leg here. First of all, let's do a passive hold. You're reaching with your left hand for the right foot, and you're just lifting it up. So that is external rotation in that right hip. And this is a passive hold because I'm actually pulling that foot up with the hand, helping that external rotation. So this is more or less your maximum range with external assistance. And then slowly let that go. So now we'll do an active hold or active lift off, which is without the other hand. Rotate externally, lift that right foot. And you notice this has to come from the hip, it's not from the knee. And then lower down. Lift. And lower. Lift. And lower. Now lift as high as you can. Hold with your hand, lift the foot a little bit higher. passive hold, and I will move from passive to active by gently releasing that right hand. We're going to fight to keep that right foot as high as possible. 3, 2, 1. Ooh. Slowly put it down. Sometimes little tears form in the corners of your eyes when you do some of this mobility work. If that's the case, luckily this is online, right? You're not in some big group class. Let's turn around to the second side. So we're posting up on left elbow. If you want to make it harder, you can be higher up onto the hand, but I'm going to go with the more basic variation. Right leg is just straight at the top. Try to have a 90-degree angle between your thigh bone and the torso, and also with the lower leg. You can use the lines of your mat to check. Nice. Passive range hold. Hold the outside edge of your left foot with your right hand, and then just see how high that foot goes, or how not high. You might be way further down, you might be straight up if you have really good external rotation in your hip. It doesn't really matter. We're just here to work with what we have and carve out a little bit more space by showing up and doing this work together. Nice. Gently release that. Do a couple of active lift-offs. So lift, squeeze those muscles deep in the outer hip, you'll feel that. And lower down. Lift, lift, lift. The knee stays down, don't cheat. And lower. Lift, lift, lift. That heel wants to creep closer to the hip, don't do it. Keep it out at a 90-degree angle. And lower down. And then last one, lift, lift, lift. Hold with the hand. Lift a little bit higher with some assistance, and then passive range hold. We're going to slowly release the support from the hand, fight to keep as much of that height as possible. 3, 2, 1, and slowly lower down. Wow, that's activation deep inside the hip joint. That's not easy to get to. Another way that I really like to do this is with the 90-90 pose. So I'm gonna turn towards this side and set up my right shin parallel to the short edge of the mat, right thigh parallel to the long edge of the mat, and then look back at your trail leg, the back leg, and do the same 90, 90, 90 in all the angles as best as you can. Now, here the work starts. We're sitting upright. And you might actually find it's impossible to sit upright because there's this pinching here, there's this pulling on the other side. So if that's you, to make it accessible, if you need to lean a little bit to the right, you can post yourself up on that right hand and lean a little bit. This is going to give you a bit more space to stay in this position. But if you have space, then lift your spine straight up or as straight as possible. And just turn the chest straight over that right knee to the front. A couple of breaths here. Again, when we use the breath, we are signaling to the body and the brain, the nervous system, that this is a position that is safe. We can relax here. And it's also safe to release some of the tension that might have been holding us back. Nice. Let's work with the front leg a little bit. Just walk a little bit forward and place your left hand on the right ankle. Nice. First, we're going to press that right foot down into the mat without lifting the right knee. That's internal rotation. Nothing much is happening. This is an isometric movement, meaning nothing's actually moving. The activation is internal. So press, press, press the right foot into the mat and just feel which muscles are facilitating that motion. 5, 4, keep pressing. 3, 2, 1. Nice. Now we'll do the opposite. imagine right knee's pressing down, and we're trying to lift the right ankle up into the left hand, into the pressure that we are putting down with the left hand. So do that now. Nothing is lifting again, but you feel another set of muscles that is now working. This is the external rotation now. Imagine you're lifting the right ankle up into the left hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release, take a breath, inhale. Exhale, slow. Nice, we're staying in the same position, but now we're turning our attention to the back leg. Nice. First, we're going to be imagining that we're going to press the left ankle down into the mat. So just sit a little bit upright, turn a little bit towards the back leg. If you have more space, you can also hold on to your back leg, that's fine. So just find a way to do that. Again, if you need to lean back a little bit onto the hands to make this possible, then that's fine. So here we go. We're going to be pressing left ankle down into the mat. That's external rotation without actually moving that leg or that hip. So press left foot down, press left foot down, press left foot down, like you want to leave a dent in the mat when you're done here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release that tension. And now we're going to try and lift the left foot up, the left ankle up. Of course, it's not going to go anywhere. This is a static, an isometric stretch. But you'll feel those rotators deep inside the hip capsule are going to switch on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh la la. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale. Slow down. If you feel some cramp, quite normal. We are re-educating some of these muscles on how to do their job or what we want them to do. What I like to do in between is just a few windscreen wipes between different sides. So if that feels good for you, do that. And then next time you end up with the left knee out in front of you, stay there for a moment. Take a moment to adjust your 90-degree angles everywhere, the foot, the knee, the hip, the foot, the knee, the hip on the other side, and then lift up as best as you can with the spine. If you need to post your left hand a little bit wider, lean a little bit sideways, then that's okay. But if you can, try to lengthen up, turn the chest over the left knee, and keep both knees grounded, the front knee and the back knee. Working with the breath again to teach our body this is a safe place to be. So work with the front leg again first. Place the right ankle on right hand on the left ankle. That didn't make any sense. And press that left foot down as hard as you can. Press, 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 press. We're internally rotating without actually moving. Press the left ankle down as if you want to dent the mat here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release that tension. Take a breath, inhale. Exhale, slow. Nice, external rotation. The right hand will keep the left ankle down. The left foot's going to try and lift up into the right hand. Here we go. Squeeze and rotate, squeeze and rotate, squeeze and rotate. Imagine that left foot lifting up, pushing that right hand up into the air. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Exhale, slow. Nice. Let's lift up and turn over that right leg. Maybe again strapping on with your hands. Or if that's not going to happen today, then just lean a bit back or find your own hand position that works. Nice. So same activations again. First we're going to press the right foot down into the mat. That's the work of external rotation without actually moving. Of course, in general, this leg is still in an internally rotated position, but we're activating sets of muscles here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Inhale. Exhale. Nice. Last one. We're going to try and lift the right foot up into the air and hold there. Well, definitely my case not going anywhere, but you might get some lift off, that's fine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, release the tension. Exhale, relax more. Nice. Slowly windscreen wipe a few times just to reset and just to feel how do we feel compared to when we just started the session. And then come to stand, our last little mobility activation before we start to do a little bit more traditional yoga poses. So come onto your left leg, stand on your left leg, and turn the right toes out, not just the right toes, but the whole right leg. So that's external rotation. Now what we're used to do is a coupled movement, external rotation, and we tend to also turn the torso. That just makes things a little bit easier. But now we'll try to disassociate those two actions by turning the torso to the left while keeping the right leg turned out to the right. So try that. You're squeezing deep inside that hip, and at the same time you're rotating your torso to the opposite side. Nice. Let's swap it around. Internal rotation. It's easier if you turn in the same way with your torso, but we don't want easy, we want effective. We want to carve out some space. So our torso is going to turn right as the right leg turns inwards to the left. So rotate inwards with that leg, rotate to the opposite side with your torso, squeeze and hold. One more time to each side. Rotate the leg externally, torso to the left. Rotate the leg internally, torso to the right. Ooh. Shake the legs out. That's a ton of work, especially for that standing leg as well. It's a bit of a sneaky inner hip strength that we are receiving as a bonus, let's say. Stand on your right leg, lift the left foot a little bit. Turn the left leg out, not just the left foot, the whole left thigh, left knee, left lower leg, left ankle, and the left foot. And I will go torso to the opposite side. So it's left toes left, chest to the right. Squeeze and hold. Just for a moment, feel that tension. This is not how you usually move. We're disassociating some patterns that were stuck together before. Rotate the leg internally and the torso to the left. You feel that right hip has to do a ton of work to stabilize, to balance, and once more to each side. If you need to hold on to something, then there's no problem. I should have probably mentioned that in the beginning, sorry. Toes to the left, torso to the right. Rotate internally with that left leg, torso to the left. Ooh, shake it out. Release that. Nice mobility work. Now let's see if we can translate this into some common yoga poses. We'll start with a couple of sun salutations, and I've modified them to get a little bit more of that hip rotation work. We'll be starting our sun salutation like this. Standing tall, mountain pose, Tadasana. Lift your right knee in front of the right hip, and then external rotation with the thigh, lifting the left foot, the right foot somewhere in front of the left knee. Don't force it, don't change the hips, and then internal rotation where the right foot is trying to swing out to the right. Quite limited for me here. And then change other leg, right foot down, left knee up. External rotation, active range hold. and an internal rotation. Keep the legs straight, the knees straight in front of the hip. And release both feet down. Inhale, lift the arm. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, the right foot back, right knee down. Turn the left toes out a little bit, and then just a few times in your lunge pose, press the left knee out and let it just bounce back in. Nice. Downward facing dog, step back. Inhale here. Exhale, step right foot forward. Lower the left knee down, lift the arms, just one breath. Exhale, step forward and fold. Inhale, rise. Exhale, go straight back down. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step left foot back. Right toes, turn them out, the left knee can go down. Couple of times. Wiggle that right knee around to invite some space in the hip joint. Nice. Down dog, just step back. Inhale, take a breath. Exhale, left forward, right knee down. Lift the arms, inhale. Exhale, step forward and fold. Inhale, rise, go all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. Mountain pose, you're already mountain pose, but we're adding our little hip rotation. Lift the right knee to hip height. External rotation, so imagine you're rotating that thigh bone in the hip socket. Internal rotation, again rotation, but to the other side this time. Place the right foot down, lift the left knee in front of left hip. External rotation. Internal rotation. This is a good check to see where you're at with your rotations. I can see my internal rotations way more on the left. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, fold forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, right foot back. Right knee down. Wiggle the left foot out, turn the toes out a bit, and rotate. Carving out some space. See how that left hip joint is feeling. Of course, it gets tight from all the sitting, hours of working, same positions we're holding during the day. And this is a bit of an antidote to that. Release, just to down dog. We're skipping the chaturangas, the back bends, for another class. So we can focus more on the hips. Inhale. Exhale, step right foot forward, lower the left knee. One breath to lift the arms. Exhale, step forward and fold. Inhale, rise all the way up, stretch. Exhale, take it back down, hinge from your hips. Inhale, flat back. Last one. Exhale, the left foot back. Left knee down, right toes out. Help with that right hand to rotate the leg out and in. Keep the breath nice and soft. And when the breath is not nice and soft, it's a sign that probably you're straining a bit too much, maybe forcing things, which is never beneficial. So just go a little bit easier. Down dog, step back. Inhale. Exhale, the left foot forward, right knee down. Inhale, rise, low lunge. Exhale, step forward, fold. Inhale, take it all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. Take a breath or two. See how your thigh bones fit in those hip sockets, how the pelvis is transferring the weight of the whole upper body down onto the two pillars of the legs, so to speak. Nice. Let's do some more standing poses. We'll start with eagle pose, and then we'll add some other ones. So eagle, stand in the left leg, hover the right foot. Bend both knees a little bit, cross the right knee over the left, and bend the knees a bit more. There's an option here to hook the right toes behind the left calf, but that's not going to be for everyone. So if that's not available, then just stay with the foot loose somewhere. Actually, I'm going to do that version. Nice. If you want to add the arms, we're keeping the torso a little bit upright. It's going to be, let me think, it's going to be right arm under the left. Lift the arms, squeeze the legs. The legs are now in internal rotation. The more you squeeze them together, the more stable you'll feel. Slowly release. Go straight into warrior 3. So lean the torso forward, forward, forward. And just have your hands on your hips, and you'll probably feel your right hip tends to lift a little bit too much. So to avoid that, roll the right hip down and stretch the leg back. This is internal rotation in the top leg. Slowly release. You can place the feet down for a moment, shake it out. So we've done internal rotation in eagle, internal or neutral at least, but the action is internal rotation in warrior 3. Now we'll do external rotation in the tree pose. Place the right foot inside the left thigh. So now this thigh is externally rotating to take it out to the side. Place hands at the heart. And then lift the arms up if you like. Take a moment, push your right foot into the left thigh. Lift everything up to the sky. But then see if you can relax. And breathe slowly with control. Even if you fall out, doesn't matter. Slowly release. Nice. Back to warrior 3. Lean the chest forward, rotate the back leg in. That will just ensure it stays neutral. And now have your left hand, or both hands maybe, on the floor. If you need a block just to lift yourself up, then that's no problem. And then a couple of times, actually like right hand to right hip, lift and lower that right hip. So we're going pretty much from warrior 3 to half moon. Warrior 3 to half moon. Internal rotation to external rotation. Feel that. One more. Internal, external. And then place it down. Ooh la la. That is quite some work, isn't it? Deep inside those hip joints, you're feeling there's a ton of muscles that we are working that don't get a lot of attention otherwise. All right, let's do the second side, isn't it? Stand on your right leg. Lift the left foot. Bend both knees. Cross left knee over the right. If you want to hook the toes, be my guest. But I find it non-essential. Sometimes it feels a little bit too restricted, actually. And then sit a little bit lower. If you want to add the arms, it's left elbow and the right. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Lift the elbows a bit. And hope for the best. It's a tough balancing pose. Feel the internal rotation in your thighs. The more you do it, the more you get better at it. Almost fell out. Warrior 3 is coming up. So how do you say that? Release the left leg back. Yeah, that's better. Lean the chest forward. Internally rotate the left hip. You can even feel with your hands on the hips level. And can you feel the left inner thigh? And then slowly come back up. Shake out the legs. Tree pose, standing on the right leg. So now we're doing external rotation in that left thigh. Place the left foot inside the right thigh. Press the foot and the thigh together. Hands to your heart. And then maybe if you want to, lift the arms up. My balance is not great today, but so be it. That's all part of the practice. You can fall out as many times as you want, but try not to get frustrated about it. Slowly release. I need to put my foot down in between because my right foot is starting to cramp. If that's you, then do the same. And then the last one is we go back to Warrior 3, but this time find some support for the hands, maybe in just the right hand. Left hand to left hip. Lift the left hip up like half moon. Lower the left hip down like Warrior 3. Lift. Lower. Lift. Lower. Once more. Lift. And lower. Set everything down. Shake out the legs. Give yourself a high five. This is tough work. And we're putting all of this into practice now. The things we've learned about rotating of the thigh bones and the hips, internal, external rotation, and we're just seeing, is there a beneficial effect? Are you getting to some places that are otherwise a little bit left out? Mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Nice. Exhale, come into high lunge. Just stepping right foot back. And again, notice, when you come up into high lunge, if we were to externally rotate that back leg, we go to Warrior 2. If we are internally rotating it, we get to neutral hips, which is more the high lunge position. So try that a few times. Externally rotate, the back heel comes down. Internally rotate the back leg, and you're in high lunge position. One more time. Externally rotate, Warrior 2. Internally rotate, high lunge. Nice. Now hands come down. You can always use blocks. And then press the left hip back a little bit. And again, we're here for the rotation of the hips. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Almost like there's a block in between the legs that you're squeezing hard. And that is the action of internal rotation without actually moving. So just feel mainly the position of that back leg is more towards internal rotation. Now place the back heel down. This is externally rotating the back leg. Elevate the left hand maybe onto your shin or wherever you need to. You can always have a little bend in that front knee and then lift the right arm up for triangle pose. So now the front hip and the back hip are moving away from each other. We're working towards external rotation. It's good to know these things because it will help you to analyze your yoga pose a little bit better, or to know where you get a little bit stuck. Another breath in our triangle pose, and then lift up. Come to wide-legged forward folds. Nice. Start with neutral feet, so the feet are parallel to the short edge of the mat. Hands to hips, lean forward, forward, forward. And then place your hands down. Nice. Take a few breaths here. And then see what happens if you turn the toes in more, so that's more internal rotation in the thighs. You might not have a lot of space, but just go pigeon-toed as much as you can. And just feel what it feels like. We're just experimenting with it. There's no right and wrong in any of these poses. And then Turn the toes out. You can even lift the balls of the feet up. So now you're on the heels. You're externally rotating your thigh bones. And just feel what that feels like. Is there a bit more space? Can you lower the chest a bit lower? Or was the internal rotation more beneficial? Usually you'll find that get a bit more space with external rotation in this wide-legged pose. Place the feet back down, slowly come back up. Let's turn the right toes out. Come onto the ball of the left foot for a high lunge. And then place the left heel down, so that's more warrior two stance, external rotation. Back to internal rotation with the back leg for the lunge. Back to external rotation for warrior two stance. We're just focusing on the legs. Turn the hips forward, that's internal rotation. Turn the hips sideways, you'll need external rotation of the hips. Nice. Turn forward, place the hands down. Start to push the right hip back to straighten a bit more in that front leg. It can still be a bit bent, don't worry. And then squeeze the inner thighs towards each other to remember there's actually internal rotation action in the back leg. Just feel that for a moment. Then turn the back heel down. Heels are more or less in line with each other. You can elevate the right hand on the block or on your shin, lift the left arm, and we're carving out space mainly around the hip joint. So just feel what happens if you externally rotate both thigh bones, the front one and the back one, and see what that does for your triangle pose. If you have more space, the right hand can come down, but it's not essential at all. Take another breath, externally rotate the thigh bones, even if they're not moving as you do that. Slowly come up and take a moment to come to a seat. Open the legs wide to the side. Nice. Place the hands behind you just for some support. Then roll the thighs in. I'm not going very far. This is the maximum that is available to me. And then roll the thighs out. A couple of times, roll the thighs in. And roll the thighs out. One more. Roll inwards, internal rotation. Roll out, external rotation. Nice. Back to neutral. The feet are pointing up more or less, and then lift the chest. If it's hard to lift the chest, if you feel the spine is collapsing and rounding, then your job is just to place your hands behind you or your fingertips and just lift the chest nice and high. If you can sit here easily without support from the hands, you might walk the hands a little bit forward. Now make sure this doesn't come just from rounding the spine, but actually from tipping the pelvis forward, which is going to help with external rotation. It's going to help benefit that. Take a couple of breaths. We've worked hard with mobility work. We did some challenging standing and balancing poses in the yoga section. And now just observe the benefits of your practice. Allow for a little bit of peace and quiet towards the end of your practice. Slowly walk the hands back in. stretch your legs out in front of you, but leave a little bit of space between the feet, and then just roll the feet out and in. Not just the feet, but the whole legs. And then hold in internal rotation. And can you hold internal rotation and start to fold forward and just see how far you get or how not far. We're not concluding anything in our mind, this is better, this is worse. We're just testing it out. And then lift back up, come to external rotation, the legs straight-ish, and then fold forward, see what that does. Do you have more space? Do you have less space? It's all good. And then back to neutral. You can move the legs a bit closer together now. Lift the spine. Again, if you feel like you're leaning back or it's hard to lengthen the spine, then just have your hands behind you, even if you lean back a bit, and sit up as straight as possible. Maybe over time you can walk closer, and maybe you can start to walk the hands out in front without excessively rounding the back. Nice. You can round your back, this is fine, but we don't want to do it to appear for the hands to go further forward. Take a moment here, if you want to hold your feet, you're very welcome, but just don't put excessive force pulling your torso closer to your feet with your arms. Rather, let this process come from the internal activation. And all this carving out of space work, it doesn't happen in a single session. It's not like you walk out of this having an amazing internal and external rotation on both legs and you're sorted all of a sudden. This is a long and gradual process of many complicated different parts of the body that have to all work together as an intelligent system. So the input that we're putting in is, this is interesting for me and I want a little bit more of this. And as you come back over and over, your body is going to adapt in quite miraculous ways. Not when you want it, which is yesterday, but when it's ready. Slowly release. Just take a comfortable seat, cross-legged or on your knees, however you like. Rest the hands somewhere where they're comfortable, in your lap or on the knees. Lengthen the spine. Close your eyes. Just take a moment to feel the space that you have carved out. Physically, we have done a lot of rotations of the legs in the hips. But there's a lot more that's happening beyond the physical level with our yoga practice. So this last little moment is to appreciate that. For a moment, can you focus on the space inside your skin? The entity that you call me. Feel how the breaths move in and out. Feel how there's a certain weight resting down. Feel how there's a thought process happening, figuring out what I'm saying, but also thoughts running in the background, going back to the past, going forward to the future. And can you more and more feel that you can empty that space, you can enjoy this feeling of spaciousness, where thoughts are coming and going, emotions coming and going, sensations in the body coming and going, sounds outside you coming and going. But imagine this is an empty space, it doesn't stick inside you, it just passes through, as it were. For a moment, can you sit here as presence? Just pure presence. You're welcome to stay a little bit longer in seated meditation, or if you prefer, just transfer onto your back for a minute or two of Shavasana. You can do longer if you have more time, but that's what we have time for together. So whether you're seated or lying down, release your body down. And can you meditate on this concept of space? A sense of emptiness and possibility. When you're full, there's only so much that can happen. But when you're empty, the possibilities are unlimited. And then start to take a few deeper breaths. Become aware of the space that you are in right now. And move your hands and move your feet if you're lying down. If you're seated, just stay where you are. You can bend your knees, roll over onto one side, and then come up to sitting. Place your palms together at the heart. Touch your hands to your forehead, to your heart center, and bow to yourself on the mat. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and take good care. See you soon.